Part 2. Air-Throne, the Dwarves, and the Light Elves. In the morning Odin mounted Air-Throne, and looked over the whole earth, whilst the Æsir stood all round, waiting to hear what he thought about it. "The earth is very beautiful," said Odin, from the top of his throne, "very beautiful in every part, even to the shores of the dark North seas. But alas! The men of the earth are puny and fearful. At this moment I see a three-headed giant striding out of Jotunheim. He throws a shepherd boy into the sea, and puts the whole flock in his pocket. Now he takes them out again one by one, and cracks their bones as if they were hazelnuts, whilst all the time men look on and do nothing." "Father," cried Thor in rage, "last night I forged for myself a belt, a glove, and a hammer, with which three things I will go forth alone to Jotunheim." Thor went, and Odin looked again. "The men of the earth are idle and stupid," said Odin. "The dwarfs and elves who live amongst them, and play tricks which they cannot understand, and do not know how to prevent. At this moment I see a husbandman sowing grain of wheat in the furrows, whilst a dwarf runs after him and changes them into stones. Again I see two hideous little beings, who are holding under water the head of one, the wisest of men, until he dies. They mix his blood with honey. They have put into 3 stone jars and hidden it away." Then Odin was very angry with the dwarfs, for he saw that they were bent on mischief. So he called to him Hermod, his flying word, and dispatched him with a message to the dwarfs and light elves to say that Odin sent his compliments, and would be glad to speak with them in his palace of Gladsheim upon the matters of some importance. When they received Hermod's summons, the dwarfs and light elves were very much surprised, not knowing whether to feel honored or afraid. However, they put on their pertest manners, and went clustering after Hermod like a swarm of ladybirds. When they were arrived in the great city, they found Odin descending from his throne, and sitting with the rest of the Æsir in Judgment Hall of Gladsheim. Hermod flew in, saluted his master, and pointed to the dwarves and elves hanging like a cloud in the doorway to show that he had fulfilled his mission. Then Odin beckoned the little people to come forward. Cowering and whispering, they peeped over one another's shoulders, now running a little way into the hall, now back again, half curious, half afraid. And it was not until Odin had beckoned 3 times that they finally reached his footstool. Then Odin spoke to them in a calm, low, serious tone about the wickedness of their mischievous activities. Some, the very worst of them, only laughed in a forward, hardened manner, but a great many looked up surprised and a little pleased at the novelty of their serious words, whilst the light elves all wept, for they were tender-hearted little things. At length Odin spoke of the 2 dwarfs by name whom he had seen drowning the wise man. "Whose blood was it," he asked, "that you mixed with honey and put into jars?" "Oh," said the dwarfs, jumping into the air and clapping their hands, "that was Kvasir's blood." "Don't you know who Kvasir was? He sprang up out of the peace made between the Vanir and yourselves, and has been wandering about these 7 years or more. So wise he was that men thought he must be a god. Well, just now we found him lying in a meadow, drowned in his own wisdom. So we mixed his blood with honey and put it into 3 great jars to keep. Was not that well done, Odin?" "Well done," answered Odin. "Well done? You cruel, cowardly, lying dwarfs. I myself saw you kill him. For shame, for shame." And then Odin proceeded to pass sentence upon them all. Those who had been the most wicked, were to live henceforth a long way underground, and were to spend their time in throwing fuel upon the great earth's central fire, whilst those who had only been mischievous were to work in the gold and diamond mines, fashioning precious stones and metals. They may all come up at night, Odin said, but must vanish at the dawn. Then he waved his hand, and the dwarfs turned round, shrilly chattering, scampering down the palace steps, out of the city, over the green fields, to their unknown, deep-buried earth homes. But the light elves still lingered, with upturned, tearful, smiling faces, like sunshiny morning dew. "You," said Odin, looking them through and through with his serious eyes, "and you." "Oh, indeed, Odin," interrupted they, speaking altogether in quick, uncertain tones. "Oh, indeed, Odin, we are not so very wicked. We have never done harm to anybody." "Have you ever done anybody any good?" asked Odin. "Oh, no indeed," answered the Light Elves. "We have never done anything at all." "You may go then," said Odin, "to live amongst the flowers and play with the wild bees and summer insects. You must, however, find something to do, or you will get to be mischievous like the dwarfs." "If only we had any one to teach us," said the Light Elves, "for we are such foolish little people." Odin looked round inquiringly upon the Aesir, but amongst them there was no teacher found for the silly little elves. He turned to Njord, who nodded his head good-naturedly, and said, "Yes, yes, I will see about it," and then strode out of the judgment hall, right away through the city gates, and sat down upon the mountain's edge. After a while he began to whistle in a most alarming manner, louder and louder in strong gusts, now advancing, now retreating. Then he dropped his voice a little, lower and lower, until it became a bird-like whistle, low, soft, enticing music, like a little spirit's call. And far away from the south a little fluttering answering came, sweet as the invitation itself, nearer and nearer until the two sounds dropped into one another. Then through the clear sky two forms came floating, wonderfully fair, a brother and sister, their beautiful arms twined round one another, their golden hair bathed in sunlight and supported by the wind. "My son and daughter," said Njord proudly to the surrounding Aesir. "Frey and Freya, summer and beauty, hand in hand." When Frey and Freya dropped upon the hill, Njord took his son by the hand, led him gracefully to the foot of the throne, and said, "Look here, dear brother lord, what a fair young instructor I have brought for your pretty little elves." Odin was very much pleased with the appearance of Frey, but before constituting him king and schoolmaster of the Light Elves, he desired to know what his accomplishments were, and what he considered himself competent to teach. "I am a genius of clouds and sunshine," answered Frey, and he spoke. The essence of 100 perfumes were exhaled from his breath. "I am the genius of clouds and sunshine, and if the Light Elves will have me for their king, I can teach them how to burst the folding buds, to set the blossoms, to pour sweetness into the swelling fruit, to lead the bees through the honey passages of the flowers, to make the single ear a stalk of wheat, to hatch birds' eggs, and teach the little ones to sing. All this and much more," said Frey, "I know, and will teach them." Then answered Odin, "It is well." And Frey took his scholars away with him to Alfheim, which is in every beautiful place under the sun.